A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to today's Hindu news analysis session with me. I'm Soumya, and like every day, the target is to analyze today's Hindu newspaper. Hindu newspaper, the New Delhi edition. For today, that's 23rd September 2025. Now, why have we selected about 7 newses from today? That's because majority of these news are very important for the UPSC exam, while the first three articles are important for UPSC mains because they give you key inputs for mains answer writing. And as I always say, the main agenda behind newspaper analysis has to be to prepare you for mains answer writing. The more current affairs, the more examples you give, the more data and stats you give from current affairs, global and Indian, the better marks you score in the GS papers. So that's the idea here. The first three articles are editorial articles, text page articles. I would say rather the first four articles will help you cover points for the mains exam. Now the remaining articles are all quick news. Let's look at them from a more prelims perspective because this is about places in the news, important orders given by the Supreme Court, various court cases in India, India-US relationship. So let's quickly analyze that also. Very good morning, Sudesh, Ramu, Dipesh. I'm so happy to see all of you for today's session. So now let's start and let's begin with the first news. Yes, this is page number 6, editorial page article. PHC doctors, primary health care center doctors. They are the caregivers for rural population, for the poor population. At the same time, they also need some care because they are also humans. That's the core of this article. And if I do a quick topic mapping, you will understand that yes, this article comes from GS paper 2. GS paper 2 because we are referring to vulnerable communities in India, the poor rural communities and the poor urban communities who completely depend on government provided medical aid. At the same time, we are also here talking about the mental health of our doctors, government doctors. So once again, it becomes GS paper 2. It is a social issue. Apart from that, also it is GS paper 3 because we are talking about an important criteria regarding population here, population policy. So now let's see what the article says. Very good morning, dear Vikash. So the article is making one key point, and it is that in India, long back during 1946, now I want you to remember this, very important for your exam. In India, long back in 1946, it was a committee known as Joseph Bhore Committee. Majority people call this as the Bhore Committee. The full name is Joseph Bhore Committee. It was under the committee that India's modern public healthcare system has been created. This was the most important health committee, public health committee made in India. Joseph Bhore Committee 1946. It advised a three-tier public health system in India. Under this committee, India decided to create primary health centers. Primary health centers. Time and again, we have spoken about primary, secondary, and tertiary health. We know primary health is about consultation with a doctor. Basic health services like vaccination, reproduction, birth control, diagnostics. So in India, it is the government's responsibility to create primary health centers as recommended under the Joseph Bhore Committee of 1946. Over a period of time, today the primary health centers have become the focal point, the first point of contact between poor rural communities and organized public healthcare system. There are majority of people from poor income backgrounds, the EWS, as well as people who are living in remote rural areas. They do not have access to good quality private health care. The only way they can achieve vaccination, birth control, and basic diagnostics for various communicable and non communicable diseases is the primary health center in India. Now, if they are so important, then they also become the connection point between the poor community and formal healthcare sector. Why is India focusing so much on primary health? We know that India is also a signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals. And talking about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, it is the Sustainable Development Goal 3.8 that makes it compulsory for every member country of United Nations to provide universal health coverage to all its citizens by 2030. India is also a signatory to the Sustainable Development Goal. Hence, it is India's responsibility under goal number 3.8 to make sure every Indian has the right to primary health. And that's the purpose for creating so many primary healthcare centers across India. Because primary health is the foundation of public health system as suggested by the Joseph Bhore Committee. So, what is the role that's played by a primary healthcare doctor? Apart from diagnosing the patients, giving them vaccinations, advising women on menstrual and reproductive health, what are the other roles that they play? The problem in India is that the primary healthcare doctors, physicians, are not just doctors who are taking care of their clinical responsibilities of treating people. Apart from clinical responsibilities, they are also performing non clinical responsibilities, such as they are the managers of these centers, they are the coordinators of these centers, they are also the training providers to ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, and ANM, auxiliary nurse and midwives in India. They are also people who keep preparing offline and online records of the patients. They are seen as the leaders of rural healthcare. So they are not only doctors, they have many non clinical duties too. As I said, they manage the primary healthcare centers, they do the auditing of registers and online entry of all the patients and records. They are the people who are also responsible for coordinating government welfare schemes at the rural area. They are the people who periodically train and advise ASHA workers, midwives, and Anganwadi workers to take care of rural poor. Hence, they do a lot of work. They are doctors, but they are doing a lot of non medical work also. Very good morning, Saurav and Vedant. They are trying to serve a population of about 30,000 people in plains. Plains means the plain areas, such as the Indo-Gangetic Plain, such as the Central Indian states. They serve about 30,000 people there. Talking about hilly and tribal areas, they serve about 20,000 people here. In hills and in tribal areas such as northeast and Himalayan states, 20,000. Now talking about urban population, they are handling 50,000 per primary health care center across urban India. So look at the burden of patients that they have. An average doctor in the primary healthcare center is able to handle per day 100 plus OPDs. OPDs means outpatient care. People who come for consultation, that's the concept of primary health. Because those who need hospitalization, they are covered under secondary and tertiary health. And we are talking about Bhore Committee's primary health center. So therefore, these doctors at the primary healthcare centers not only manage and coordinate, they are serving about 100 plus outpatient services, 100 patients per day, including pregnant women, including antenatal care towards pregnant women. They are also people who need to handle sometimes specialities as well. Now, we all know when a patient needs consultation by a specialist like an ENT, an orthopedic, a gynecologist, a dermatologist, that becomes secondary healthcare. But rural population does not have access to that. And primary healthcare centers cannot afford specialists. So many times it is these doctors at the primary health centers who also provide specialist healthcare across pediatrics, geriatrics, old population, across chronic and emergency healthcare needs. They are also the people who provide public health functions like mass vaccinations, polio, DTP, COVID-19 pandemic, cervical cancer. They are also the people who provide campaigns, government welfare campaigns. They are the ones who conduct them. They are the ones who do surveillance across villages to check whether people are actually adopting hygiene and sanitation policies. They are the ones who are responsible for controlling vector borne diseases. Today, the newspaper also says in Delhi NCR, the number of cases of malaria and dengue are on the rise. We all know that many states, including Uttarakhand, Punjab, Himachal, have recently experienced flash floods. Now, every time there is a flooding situation, there is also a danger of mosquito breeding that leads to many diseases like malaria, dengue, chikungunya. They are also having a high rate of mortality, especially among the children and the elderly population. And it is these doctors from primary health centers who also, therefore, take care of vector borne disease control programs. They are the ones who also take care of sanitation and menstrual campaigns. They also overhead, they control school health programs. They also take care of health education and gram sabhas at the panchayat level. So look at the amount of work that they do. Besides, they act as mentors. Mentors to ASHA workers, accredited social health care activists, women who go door to door in rural areas, remote areas, and provide vaccine, birth control, and basic supplements to young children and women. They also take care of auxiliary nurse midwife, women who provide deliveries, post and prenatal care to rural poor women who cannot afford hospitalization. They also provide basic health care and awareness in Anganwadi, government primary schools. Hence, the duty done by a primary healthcare doctor is too much. Not just taking care of patient, but also so many non-clinical functions. So what are the challenges that they face? Naturally, one challenge is excessive work and burnout. They experience chronic anxiety because they are working like robots, they are working like machines. They get overwhelmed sometimes at the number of OPD cases that they deal with each and every day. And imagine that too, dealing with a population that is only semi educated, who does not have much awareness about health and hygiene issues. So, which means they have to act with utmost patience and respect towards their clients. Now, with that, another problem is that they also do not get any extra time to update their medical training, to get new certifications, to try to get new education about latest medical protocols. They don't get any such chance to attend workshops because they are always busy working. They get no chance to do any research or pursue higher education, like the doctors in the primary private healthcare sector. They don't get to attend these workshops. Absolutely, Dipesh. That's a valid point. In India, the number of doctor patient ratio is overwhelmingly high. If the WHO recommends about 1,000, in India, we have already crossed much more than 1,200 per doctor. That's a lot of patients per day. A very good morning, US. That's it, that's the code name. Okay, very good morning, Dipesh. So, apart from that, another challenge is that they maintain 100 plus registers. Now, can you imagine? Not only are you dealing with 100 plus OPD every day, you are also maintaining 100 plus registers, written records of patients and the treatment that they got. You are also, apart from that, maintaining digital duplication of records. Now, under the government's policies, such as the UVIN application, such as the population health register, such as Ayushman Bharat, PMJAY, it is compulsory for all the primary health centers to maintain online records of their patients' history. So these doctors are not only filling offline registers manually, they are also filling digital entries for the number of patients who they received and the treatment that they gave them. After all, it is this data that is later collected by NFHS, that's later collected by Niti Aayog, that's later collected by census officers. So they have to maintain online, offline, both data, double work pressure. So that schemes like Ayushman Bharat, UVIN, CoVIN, PHR, Population Health Register, all these are getting latest records and data. Now, apart from that, they experience a high level of stress and burnout. According to World Health Organization report called International Classification of Diseases, round 11. The burnout among doctors in developing countries who are working in public health sector is completely occupational phenomena. They are experiencing stress because they experience a lot of burnout, a lot of anxiety and stress because of dealing with so many people each day. That's the WHO estimate according to International Classification of Diseases. There is a lack of staff, trained nurses, trained paramedical officers and workers, lack of trained emergency healthcare experts. There is a lack of compounders. There is a lack of people who can support the doctors in conducting basic consultation and at least provide first aid. Apart from that, these doctors are also experiencing a lack of recognition and enough salary. They are not remunerated as much as private doctors are getting, not even comparable amount of money. So what does that mean? It means not only an abuse and overuse of a precious resource, that's our human resource, it also means discouragement. Now, newer medical students would never ever sign up for becoming a government doctor. They would always shy away from rural medical duties because they know that it leads to burnout. They know that they will have to deal with a high number of outpatients per day. Plus, so much non clinical duty also they need to perform that so many medical students will never want. So, in India, we are discouraging a culture of public healthcare rather than encourage it. At least from the supply side, we have to make sure that the doctors who are readily, with passion, participating in public health need to be rewarded. If you cannot compensate them well, at least provide them with a supplemental force, workforce, staff, nurses, compounders, so that the work burnout becomes easier. Now, the article says we can also learn a lesson from America here. America has a campaign, a program called 25 by 5 campaign. Under this initiative, American government under National Library of Medicine and Columbia University is now trying to experiment with a new protocol. Rather than creating duplicate documentation, online and offline both, rather than putting the burden on doctors to create a register of every patient and the medicines that the doctor suggested them, it's a better idea to make 75% documentation only online, and that too it will be handled by data specialists, data entry specialists, not by doctors or nurses. So that's a great way. And US says by 2025 we will obtain 75% coverage of this. So in India we need something similar, don't we? Why can't we have complete registry online, and that too done by trained data entry and internet working staff who should be provided to the doctors at their primary health centers, and they will be responsible for only doing online data. Why should the doctors fill up the registers manually? And why should the doctors fill up online data entries? Why do they have to do so much non clinical duty? If you force them to do this, how will they work with passion towards treating the poor people? And that's a very unfortunate thing that's happening in India. Now, apart from that, there are some more solutions. For example, registers that are about 10 years old now. Why can't we just dump them? Remove them now. We can't keep on having 50 years registers with us. That only piles up to the burden of the primary healthcare. Let's do automation. Why can't we use some AI? Now, India is a pool of talent. We have multiple startups who are ready to work on innovative segments like healthcare problems, vaccination, telemedication. So, why can't we request them to make an app? An application which allows automated, integrated data entry so that every patient has an online record without the doctors having to do anything about it. Now, why can't we delegate the non clinical task to data managers, as I said, to regular nursing staff, to regular paramedical staff? And why don't you allow these doctors to upgrade their training through workshops and certifications once in 6 months by providing a rotational duty? Why should one doctor for many, many years, all his life, continue to work only as a primary healthcare doctor without getting any opportunity to work in a specialist structure, without having any opportunity to do more internships and more workshops? Why can't we hire paramedical? I mean, if we integrate medical education under the national education policy, students after high school can also take up paramedical training, not just medical training, but also extra medical, paramedical training to provide first aid, to provide emergency service, to provide vaccination. That will also reduce the burnout rate of these doctors that we have who are doing such an important task here. So that's the pitch of the article for the day. And with reference to the article, here's a quick question that when we talk about the primary health centers in India, look at the following statements. One, as per the Indian public health standards, a primary health care center is created for every 30,000 population in plains and 20,000 population in hilly, tribal and difficult areas. A primary health center is created to function as a referral unit for 6 sub-centers with a provision for curative, preventive and promotive healthcare. And 3, in urban areas, under the National Urban Health Mission, NUHM. Generally, the PHCs cater to a population of about 50,000 people. It's a quite an easy question. Only the second statement is slightly tricky. So if you can answer the question, do try for sure. Absolutely, Ramu, that's a very valid statement you've made that specialist facilities are concentrated in urban and semi-urban areas, while the villages really lack that. Villages are underserved. I agree. Absolutely, Dipesh. That's a valid point. There is also a regional variation, true, and this also includes alternate medicine. So now, Dipesh, you said something so extraordinary by that comment because the next article is going to be about alternate health only. Okay. Very good morning, Vijay. Yes, today I can say with a lot of assurance that all the PDFs are available starting from September 1 to today. Yes, I have checked them myself. Please, once you finish the class, go to the description box. There are many links. In that, there is one link about the Hindu analysis. Go on that link. Once that link opens, go to Study IQ English. Once you type that, you will have the folder with Hindu. Press that, you will get all September PDF links. I have checked it, it's available. Yes, absolutely, it's available, and every day it will be updated. So don't worry. Okay, that's a tricky one. Dipesh, Saurav, Vedant, everyone is saying B is the valid answer. I am not sure about that, my dear, if B is the valid answer. Okay, let's discuss in the last slide of the session. It may not be valid. Let's wait. But still well tried. Absolutely, the first and the third statement are correct. So there you are absolutely correct. Now, whether the second is correct or not, we'll have to wait and watch. Second article. Just like Dipesh was mentioning 2 minutes before. Alternate medicine. Yes, it's a growing area in India, and this article is about the same thing. Once again, page number 6, editorial page. The growing relevance of traditional medicine. In India, whenever we think of traditional medicine, we think of homeopathy, Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani. Yes? So these are certain systems of traditional medicines that have nothing to do with allopathic, modern science oriented medicines, injections, tablets. They work in their own way. They have a very herbal and a very organic approach towards healthcare. And most often, traditional medicine focuses on preventive healthcare rather than working towards emergency or curative healthcare. So, what is traditional medicine and why is it becoming an important sector in today's global health domain? Very important article because this relates to GS paper 1 social issue. Yes, it is a social issue, the health and well-being of Indian population. Yes, it is GS paper 3 because under science technology we do study the health sector. Within the health sector, this is alternate medicine in India. This should also remind you of the government's Ayush department, a separate department under the union government that's meant for providing people access to Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy kind of medication. So, what is traditional medicine? Now, today on 23rd September, we are celebrating the Ayurveda Day. What are we celebrating? Ayurveda Day. What's the theme for this year? Ayurveda for people and the planet. A beautiful theme indeed. Because we all know Ayurveda is for people. Yes, it is about making human health better. But we must understand it is also about making the planet's health better. After COVID 19, one new concept has become popular. This is known as One Health Program. Under One Health program, today everybody, all the doctors and scientists, including veterinary doctors, botanists and zoologists, they all believe that in today's world of pandemics and unknown diseases, human, plant, and animal health are all one concept. This is called the One Health approach. Today, we do not treat animal and human health as separate issue. It is all one and the same thing because all three species, human, animal, and plant, form the same ecosystem. And COVID pandemic, bird flu, swine flu, tomato flu, lumpy cow disease, Marburg virus, all these have proven the point that humans can transfer disease to animals, animals can contaminate human, which means we are living in the world of zoonotic diseases. A host of organisms, bacteria, fungi, virus, protozoa, amoeba that can cross the species barrier. They can travel from one species to another. So today, all the health of animal, plant, and human are one, and we need to treat them equally importantly if we need to protect even one species. Keeping that in mind, today the value of traditional medicine has increased a lot. For example, as per a data given by World Health Organization, among United Nations members, about 88% of member countries are practicing traditional medicine and Ayurvedic type of alternate medicines. Out of 194 identified UN members, 170 countries are using alternate medication. And this is more popular in Asia, South America, and African continents. Primary health care. We were just talking about how in India the doctor patient ratio is very poor. As Ramu was mentioning, it's about 1 to 811. In some rural areas, it is crossing 1200 also. We just spoke about how the primary health centers are overburdened. So today in the world of about 8 billion people, especially in the low and middle income countries, we know it is very difficult to afford private health care. It is also impossible for primary health of the government to cover all the massive population. Now in India, for example, 1.4 billion people. How many primary health centers do we have? Barely any. Given that only 1% population is having enough money, sufficient money to consult a private medical health care every time they fall sick. Given the fact that less than 34% people in India have insurance right now. Given the fact that barely about 10% people are even aware about the importance of getting insurance, and 85% people are spending out of pocket on health. In this situation, it is impossible for government primary health centers to cater to the needs of 1.4 billion people in India. Globally also, we cannot afford that. So therefore, today the market of alternate medicine is increasing. It is about $583 billion in 2025. The growth rate is 10 to 20% annually. It will jump further the next year. Let's look at China, the second largest population in the world after India. China has about $122 billion market of alternate health. Australia invests about $3 billion, about $4 billion actually in herbal medicine, and India it is $43.4 billion. The market share of alternate traditional medicine in India, it's so massive. Now talking about how has India transformed its Ayush sector. Ayush, as I just said, is now a separate ministry of the Indian government from 2017 onwards that deals with Ayurveda, Unani system, Siddha system, homeopathy system. It believes in a very herbal, traditional medication approach. No steroids, no harmful side effects, purely preventive and organic. Very good morning, Prakash. In Ayush sector of India, we have about 92,000 plus companies working. Most of these companies are that's medium to small enterprises. So small scale industries. The revenue is about 21,697 crore rupees. That was in 2015. Today it is about 1.3 lakh crore. Imagine the rise of the sector. We are talking about Ayush manufacturing sector, traditional medicine manufacturing sector. India exports about $1.54 billion of traditional medicine. Indian medicines reach more than 150 countries across the globe. Can you imagine? Out of 194 recognized countries, Indian alternate medicines like herbal medicine, homeopathic medicine, Unani medicine, it's reaching 150 plus nations today. 95% of rural and 96% of urban population is already aware about the benefits of herbal traditional medication. 50% Indians out of 1.4 billion people in India have used Ayush to cure some or the other disease in 2024. Look at that. Ayurveda is considered, out of all other traditional medicines, Ayurveda is considered the most preventive and the most effective medication by the people. In India, you have institutes like the All India Ayurveda Institute. You have the Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda. You have the National Institute of Ayurveda. All these are the key players when it comes to promoting, proposing, further enhancing the use and development of traditional Ayurvedic medicines. Now, talking about how is India planning to go global with its Ayush agenda, Ayurveda agenda. So, India has already signed about 25 bilateral pacts, 52 memorandum of understanding with various countries in the world. These were all signed by Indian Ministry of Ayush to create, to export herbal medicine to these countries. India has 43 Ayush information centers who are currently operational in 39 known countries. Under World Health Organization agenda, there is a global traditional medicine center that has also been set up in India, which is now going to use the most sophisticated artificial intelligence tools to provide people with telemedicine. Telemedicine is a rising area now. Since India is the hotbed, India is the hub of Ayush medicine and trained Ayurvedic doctors, people across the world will be able to connect and consult these doctors through online basis. That's called telemedicine. When you consult an online doctor in some other country, absolutely, or in some other state within the same country. These doctors will diagnose, recommend medicines, and then the medicines will be exported through unique Ayush centers across various countries. India is already exporting to 150 plus nations. Artificial intelligence can not only create more predictive tools for Ayurveda, it can also create highly customized medication. While in homeopathy, there is no concept of customized medicine. If I am having fever and body ache, I will take paracetamol or I will take some other NSAID, any other drug that is a painkiller, that is the antipyretic. That's a standard medicine I'm going to take. If I am experiencing an infection, I will have to take an antibiotic or an antifungal or whatever. But in Ayurveda, that's not the case. For your body, for your genetic history, for your various body parameters, there is a very customized solution that these doctors are providing, and no wonder people across the world are enjoying these medicines. They don't come with much side effects either. Now, the government is only planning to upscale, further scale up the manufacturing and export of Ayurveda. For India, it could also be a great sector of export and foreign earning. The philosophy of Ayurveda is not only to take care of body from inside, it is to take care of the planet. Because in Ayurveda medicine, we are not only focusing on body-mind coordination, we are also focusing on human and nature balance restoration. Most of the Ayurvedic medicines are using herbs. They are using roots of plants. They are using the shoot, the fruit, various parts of the plant. That's the beauty. Because all these then emerge from the soil health. All these emerge from nature. And hence, Ayurveda is also creating a delicate human ecological balance. Therefore, Ayurveda also supports preserving trees and conserving nature. Naturally, because most of the medicine is coming from the nature. So therefore, today Ayurveda has a massive application across preventing non-communicable disease like insulin resistance, diabetes type 2, obesity, stress, anxiety, depression, hypertension. It's also working wonderfully for enabling sustainable agriculture, sustainable eco-friendly remedies by suggesting to the governments that please do not allow much pesticide, do not do much modernized and artificial seed farming. Go back to organic farming because that's what Ayurveda gets its ingredients from. So therefore, Ayurveda completely believes in a one health approach, and that's why it's the medicine for the future. No wonder for Indian government, it could be a massive way in order to earn more money, to bring India's traditional medicine to the global stage. Apart from that, also preventing abuse of medicines. Today, if you know, there was a summit that was held in 2021. It was one of its own kind summit. It was held in Muscat. I don't know if you've heard about it before. It's called the Muscat Convention. Under Muscat Convention, for the first time, various leaders of various countries discussed the rising antimicrobial resistance. Today, because of abuse and excessive use of antibiotics in humans and animals, because for humans, it is meant to create a solution to health problems. But for animals, it is given as a growth promoter. Across poultry and cattle sector, farmers and dairy farmers, various kind of animal farm owners are giving antibiotics to animals. Why are they giving? Because they create more growth for these animals. But that's a dangerous thing, because once animals also consume it, it becomes a part of our food chain. And therefore, today we are living in a world of brain eating amoeba, yellow fungal infection, black fungal infection. Why are these things happening? Because bacteria are becoming resistant to medicine, antimicrobial resistance. So, Ayurvedic medicine can also take care of this by asking people to come out of the trap of modern allopathic medicine, except in emergency, and try to go for herbal medicine because that really helps you. There are some challenges, yes. We need better clinical validation to counter the doubts that people have towards Ayurveda. Similarly, better quality and better safety standards have to be looked into. We have to make sure that we integrate Ayurveda in modern hospitals and clinics by creating a separate cell, separate department for that in every hospital. Similarly, we need to make sure that too much abuse of plants also doesn't happen, so that we do not overuse medicinal plants. A very good case study I can mention here. In the Himalayan area, states like Uttarakhand and Sikkim, Arunachal, Himachal, there was a very famous herb. It was a herb, it was known as the Himalayan yew. You must have read about this in NCRT geography. This was known for its anti-cancer property. It was a wonderful ingredient used for cancer medication. Over years, it was abused so much, it was reaped, harvested so much that today it is almost on the brink of extinction. In many areas, it is already near extinction. In some areas, it has disappeared already. This was the Himalayan yew, a good case study here. That we also have to make sure that although we are encouraging Ayurveda, too much exploitation of medicinal plants should also be avoided. At the same time, we have to focus on growing them also. Yes, absolutely, Dipesh. It's a wonderful area for tribal participation also, because tribals are excellent when it comes to knowledge of herbal medication. Like yesterday, we were reading about a tribe. No, actually, I was doing a current affairs video on that. Yesterday, I made a video on the Birhor tribe who got electricity finally after 80 years of being in dark. Birhor from Jharkhand. So they are experts in dealing with herbal medication. So these are certain things the article is saying. Absolutely, that's an important point. Absolutely. With reference to traditional medicine in India, consider the following statements. 1. The World Health Organization Global Center for Traditional Medicine has been created in India. 2. According to National Sample Survey of 23, over 95% of India's rural and urban population is aware of Ayush system. And 3, Ayurveda Day is observed on 23rd September, with this year's theme being Ayurveda for people and the planet. That's an easy one. That's an easy question. I think it's an easy question. Yes, what's the answer then? It's an easy question. All the points have been covered in the article. I don't think it should be an issue. Okay, so as you answer, I'll proceed with the next article and I'll confirm the answer once the answers keep coming in. Absolutely. Very good, Joshua. The first one to answer here, Dipesh. Yes, it's D. All the statements are valid. Very well done. Very well done. Great job. Absolutely, Ramu. Great sort. Yes, yes, it's all D. It's all are correct. So the next article is page number 7 and it is GS paper 2 this time, social justice towards transgender community. Now kindly do not correlate and confuse between the third gender and the transgender. Trans means transition, a change from one gender identity into another. Third gender is today officially recognized in India after 2018. There is the recognized masculinity, femininity, and then, of course, we have the scope for the third gender as well. People who either are the third gender, that means who could be the intersexual population, or people who belong to a category which is today considered queer. Queer, as in they do not want to follow any existing social norm about gender. They feel that they do not want to follow a binary concept of gender. They just want to feel not no association with any gender, so that's also fine. Okay, so let's not confuse there. Third gender is now an officially recognized category, while the transgender are those people who transition, who convert, who transition themselves either bodily or mentally, emotionally into another gender. So that's important to remember, and this article is talking about the transgender population, that they need more empowerment. Now, in India, the history goes back to 2018. That was for the first time the Indian government started acknowledging the existence, the identity, and the rights of the third gender or the transgender. It all happened as the Supreme Court of India back in 2018 had chosen to decriminalize Section 377 of the IPC, Indian Penal Code. Before that, it was considered a criminal offense to practice homosexuality, but after that, things changed. And as things changed, society's attitude towards people who are either the third gender or the transgender or those who come in the LGBTQ2 plus bracket, that has also changed. Today, we acknowledge that under Article 14, every individual in India, despite differences of caste, creed, gender, place of birth, or race, have equal rights. Absolutely. We will come to that. Yes, Dipesh, that was the Navjot Singh Johar case. Absolutely, absolutely. So today the article is asking that transgender people in India have every right to be protected. After 2018, as homosexuality has been decriminalized, also, our constitution has inbuilt provisions for them. Article 14 gives every individual equality, which means transgenders also have that. Article 15 prohibits any discrimination based on the grounds of gender or sex. And Supreme Court also believes that we cannot discriminate on the basis of gender when it comes to education and job. Article 16, equality to in public employment. Yes, across matters of government jobs, we cannot discriminate among people on the basis of their sexual identity or gender identity. Article 19(1)(a), the right to free speech and expression, that includes people from the third or the transgender. Article 21, the right to life and liberty among the transgenders. So all these articles of the constitutions are giving them equality. And then we talk about Supreme Court judgments. As Dipesh was mentioning, Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India case 2018, under which the 377 section of homosexuality was abolished as a crime. It was decriminalized. Today, homosexuality is allowed in India if it is consensual among adults. There is no problem in that. Similarly, we had the Nalsa versus Union of India case, which also said the third gender is a proper category now, and you can associate with a non-binary gender that's not male and not female. These people should also be given some reservations. That was the judgment created in 2014. Then 2017, the very famous case called the right to privacy case, the Puttaswamy case. Under the Puttaswamy case, the Supreme Court said right to privacy is a fundamental right today. And therefore, the right to choose your sexual orientation and gender also comes within this right to privacy. At the same time, we talk about another statutory act, the 2009 Act, Transgender Protection of Right Act. Under this, there cannot be any discrimination against transgender in public domains like education, job, housing schemes, sanitation schemes, public spaces like parks, PVRs, malls, they have an equal access everywhere. Similarly, welfare schemes will be created in future towards transgender. For example, the very famous one called Smile Scheme for the Transgender, Garima Greh Scheme for the Transgender. At the same time, under the same act, Transgender Protection of Right Acts, the government has also made it mandatory on the parts of the district magistrates to issue online identity cards to transgender population. If a transgender individual does not want to visit the office, they will not be forced to come for verification. The ID can be processed and tracked online. You cannot delay that right. That's very, very crucial here. Recently, in 2022, the government did an revolutionary initiative by providing Ayushman Bharat cards, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, to the member of transgender community for getting primary, tertiary, secondary health, which means gender change surgery will also be covered under Ayushman Bharat free insurance of the government. But still there are gaps. For example, although we have announced all these protocols, but today also people's attitude towards transgender is a very, very disappointing one. They do experience humiliation when it comes to visiting public offices and interacting with public officers. Similarly, still people do not give them rental accommodation. People are afraid to allow them into private clinics and hospitals. There is a massive social cultural prejudice that occurs. Majority of trans and third gender people continue to work as sex workers or they are into the begging racket. They still beg for money. Although the constitution prohibits that. That still happens. Similarly, in public spaces, there is ridicule. There is a lack of safe access to public toilets despite the government mandating the toilets for them. Government saying that if they do not have a separate toilet, they will not be stopped from accessing a male or a female toilet in public sphere. But that's not allowed majorly. Similarly, in public healthcare centers also, when it comes to reproductive healthcare or gender-based healthcare, the trans people are often denied their rights. Education, massive dropout exists among transgender children. They experience abandonment at a young age. They are not seen participating in formal schools. When they do, they experience a dropout rate because of insult and lack of empathy from the teachers itself. Today in India, despite the National Education Policy 2020, we lack sensitivity and awareness about gender affiliation. For a majority of Indian urban students coming from top metropolitans like Delhi, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, there is still a lack of understanding about gender inclusivity. People don't understand there is a non binary concept of gender. If the Supreme Court has allowed that, then why can't the public? Then, very few people of the transgender community are now visible, even today in the legislature or bureaucracy or university research professor levels. They are not there. Bullying and harassment are a daily story, absolutely, Baga. And that's very sad and concerning. So, this reminds me of a very interesting word that I teach my students when I teach them sociology and social issues. And this is known as the problem of culture lag. You can mention this in your answer in GS paper 1 2. If you are writing sociology, psychology, or anthropology, yes, and an essay also. This is the problem of culture lag. It is a very interesting phenomena where on paper the legislation happens very fast. For the government, it takes 1 day to pass a bill and pass a legislation. So material changes happen very fast in a society. Supreme Court passed the order. The government of India created the Transgender Prevention of Right Act, Protection of Right Act 2019. Law is done. Law is ready. But that's a material change. Unfortunately, in every society in the world, material changes are very fast, but the non-material cultural changes are very slow. Please remember, non-material cultural changes, changes in values of people, changes in beliefs of people, changes in cultural practices of people are very slow. They can take up to years and generations to change. So non-material culture will never respond to the fast pace of material culture change. And that's the problem of culture lag. And this problem is exactly about culture lag. While on paper, you have the change, but in reality, people's attitude is not ready to change. If you look at other countries in Argentina, South America, we have a gender identity law, which means a person can declare themselves as a trans or a third gender without a medical proof for that. Absolutely, Baga. That's well said. Social morality doesn't change. Absolutely, Dipesh. In Pakistan, from 2018 onwards, there is an act which recognizes self identification, inheritance rights, and voting rights to transgender. But once again, it is not being followed properly. Again, the problem of culture lag. On paper, the culture will change. Materialistically, it will change. Non material, cultural part will not change. US 25 by 5 campaign. In the previous article, the first article for the day, I have spoken about it with you. 25 by 5 campaign. The purpose is to reduce the paperwork and documentation, and by making everything digital. 75% of public documents should be digital by 2025. So, under here also, quick giving identity cards, quick tracking of iCards, quick access to online welfare schemes is now the norm in America. And that's what we are looking at. Okay. So, a very interesting question. Let me quickly see the comments. Yes, absolutely, Gaurav. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Yes, a huge tribute, a major tribute to the legendary Zubinda. Absolutely. From my side, from all our side. Absolutely, RIP there. That's a very important, thing to discuss. Very important. Okay. Absolutely, Saurav. Yeah, it is about people being very conservative. Yes, idealism versus materialism. It's a wonderful topic for philosophy essay, also, please remember. Yes, agreed. So that is called the culture lag. When material culture changes, for example, I can say that on paper, in India, one-third seats are reserved for women in the panchayat. But that's a paper, material change. Is it happening in the terms of culture and reality? That's called culture lag. So, question with reference to rights and policies in India about transgenders, look at the following. One, the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Acts 2019 prohibits discrimination in education, employment, and healthcare. Two, Supreme Court of India in the Nalsa judgment versus Union of India 2014 recognized transgender as a third category and told the government to provide reservation in education and employment. And three, Article 15 of the Constitution prohibits discrimination on the grounds of gender. But even today, it doesn't exist to the gender identity. Absolutely. Absolutely well answered. Brilliant. Absolutely. D is the right answer. Great. Baga, Dipesh, Saurav, Ramu, Joshua. Karthi. Very well answered, my dear. Now, the next article quickly. It's a very important one, by the way. This is the last important one for the day. Then we have the quick articles. So, this is GS paper 3 because we are talking about India US trade relationship. India US trade relationship. Very well explained, Dipesh, because the act mentions the word sex identity. No discrimination on the basis of birth, sex, place of birth, race, religion. But that is a biological identity. But gender is a social cultural identity. For some people, their sexual identity at birth does not match their gender identity that they perceive. And that's the problem of trans, the third, and the cure. It's not a problem, it is a reality. People have made it a problem. So that's very well explained. Thank you, Dipesh. So this article is about India-US trade relations, and we are talking about a complaint from President Trump. Now you might be wondering, every day President Trump has a new complaint. But what to do? He's having mood swings right now. So President Trump again said the same thing, that why is India not importing enough corn from the US? He really wants India to open up its agriculture to America. And he wants India to keep importing more corn, more and more corn. And he's giving two reasons for that. He is saying India is a country of 1.4 billion people. Then why don't they import more corn for us? Second, India is also committing to reduce 45% of carbon dioxide emission by 2030 as compared to 2005 level, which means India will need more ethanol to mix it with petrol. So why don't you import more corn, more maize from us? After all, US is a surplus economy. US is producing 10 times more corn than it actually should. And despite a high level of export, US market still has extra stock of corn. So it wants it to come to India. But Indian government is not okay with it. India is not allowing. So let's see what's the controversy. Absolutely. Corn is a simple staple. Neither it is much nutritious for people. It leads to extra intake of sugar and carbohydrates. So why only for ethanol we will import so much corn? And by the way, it is basic common sense as per Indian government. If we keep importing corn from you, how will we become Atmanirbhar? That much sense also they should have, right? Absolutely. That's the biggest point that you've made, Joshua. I was about to come to that. Great. As Baga says, our farmers need support. Why should we? Last but not the least, the point that Joshua has raised, that's the fundamental controversy. American corn is genetically modified corn. Indian government only allows genetically modified cotton, BT cotton. We don't allow BT brinjal. We don't allow any other plant coming from BT. Neither will we allow BT corn. So why will we import from you? That's India's logic. So let's see the fight all about. Well, US wants India to keep on importing more corn, that is the maize plant, saying that with 1.4 billion people, you can afford to do that. You should do that. Right? Now, India is saying, agreed that our corn output is not as much as you. Agreed that as per the global average, India's corn output is still less. For example, as compared to the world, it is quite less. But at the same time, India is almost self-sufficient. If you compare it with other countries, we may have a lower output of corn, but for our needs, we have enough corn production. We are self-sufficient in maize. We don't want to import more from you. If we keep importing more and more corn from you for human consumption, cattle consumption, creating ethanol based petrol, what will our farmers do? You have extra production. You want us to reduce the import duty also. If your corn comes and fills up my market, then what will happen to my farmers? Who will buy the produce of my farmers if your corn becomes cheaper in Indian market? Why should India's farmers suffer? Today, India's production is about 50 million tons per year. And out of that, 10 to 12 million tons we have kept away for ethanol. We will make ethanol with that. Thank you so much, Baga. That's so kind of you, my dear. Thank you so much. So imagine out of 50 million, we will keep 12 million only for creating ethanol. Where are we lack? Where are we lagging? We are self-sufficient, not a problem. In 2024-2025, 1 million ton of corn was imported in India, I agree, but from Myanmar and Ukraine. It was not imported from America because American corn is genetically modified. Indian government is not ready to allow. Indian government is not ready to allow genetically modified crops. Only cotton is allowed. The bollworm cotton, the BT cotton, we allow that, but we do not allow it in brinjal. We do not allow it in corn also because it has health effects. It has climate disastrous effects. So therefore, we don't consider right now GM to be completely ecologically safe. So if we start importing, it will become controversial and dangerous. So we will not allow genetically modified corn from America, and that America is not happy about. America is not happy about that. Now look at the double standards of America. If we import oil from Russia, America has a problem because Russia and America are ideologically enemies. But even if we import from Ukraine, Ukraine is a great friend and a NATO ally of America. Still, America is having a problem. What to do? Talking about America's benefit, America says that we are doing mechanized, modern, machine based corn production and harvesting. So, which means they have too much corn that is ready for feeding cattle, that is ready to be used in processed food like chips, corn based snacks. corn syrup, majorly used in various beverages and food items. Similarly, it is ready to be used in ethanol also. America is producing 350 million tons of corn, out of which 45 million ton is exported right now. America wants to make it 200. What to do? They have overproduction, supply side inflation, too much production. China is already reducing its soybean imports from America. So US wants an alternative market like India so that corn can be purchased by India. And how is US blackmailing us? US says you want to produce ethanol with petrol. You want to reduce carbon footprint. You want to become carbon neutral by 2017. So buy our corn. Make more ethanol. Why are you showing so much attitude then? Buy. But Indian concern is also legitimate. We cannot buy GMO corn. Why should we buy that? It's not safe. Second, if we keep buying from America, this corn produce at a cheaper price because that's bulk, that's mechanized, what will Indian farmers do? Their benefits will start declining because then everybody will start buying only foreign corn. It is a distress for farmers in states like Bihar that we cannot allow, that we cannot let happen. Similarly, ethanol blending program of mixing 20% ethanol with petrol from 2025 itself. The earlier target was 25% actually. It is designed to make India Atmanirbhar. If we start importing from you, then how will we become Atmanirbhar? That is a basic thing that America is not understanding. India needs to become self-sufficient in corn, especially for producing ethanol. That's the beauty of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Viksit Bharat 2047. Until there is a clear-cut protocol on GMO safety, we will not buy from America. We will not put our farmers in danger, and we will not do any kind of import when we are self-sufficient in corn. So India wants to reduce its carbon footprint by becoming Atmanirbhar, not by importing more and further go in the debt trap. That's the question, simple issue, just a controversy created by President Trump once again. Question with reference to India-US corn relationship in terms of trade and domestic ethanol policy. Look at the following statements. Absolutely. India's Atmanirbharta is against American interests. Naturally, they don't want that. They want us to take oil from them, corn from them. That's what they want. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Very valid point made by Order also. That's a very smart point you've made. The major producer of corn in America, the most of the states, the areas that are producing corn, also are coming from Trump's election hotspot. So Trump has a huge electoral base over there. So by supporting corn export, he will also guarantee his own electoral victory. That is also interesting. Yes. So now one, India's imports of corn mainly from the US to meet its ethanol blending needs. Two, the cultivation of GM corn is currently banned in India. And three, India's ethanol blending program aims to reduce oil import dependence and promote domestic maize production. Absolutely valid. Absolutely. Dipesh, Ramu, Joshua, Saurav, Baga. Well answered. Very good. Rajneesh. Absolutely well answered, my dear. Now, quick three articles before I take your leave. According to the Central Pollution Control Board, in India, the number of polluted river sites are increasing. At the same time, although the number of these sites who are polluted have reduced, but the kind of pollution they have spread in their tributaries, distributaries, and small rivulets has been on the rise. So it's a paradoxical situation. The number of rivers which have extremely polluted water has decreased, but the extent of pollution they have spread across small water bodies has been on the rise. So this report has now come and it says in India, rivers are extremely important not only for water, domestic use, agriculture, irrigation, industry, but also it is important because the quality of water determines biodiversity, it determines public health. Today, the report says under the Central Pollution Control Board that in India, across 4736 locations, including rivers, ponds, creeks, canals, there has been an overall reduction in pollution. That's correct. So this 2-year investigation has showed that although the overall pollution has declined, but the number of pollutants in the small water bodies like rivulets and drains and canals has increased. So this current estimate is based on a measurement known as BOD. This is biological oxygen demand. Biological oxygen demand. Important Science and Technology, GS paper 3. Water contamination, especially BOD, biological oxygen demand. So what is that? The BOD measures the amount of oxygen that organisms in a given water body consume. So the amount of oxygen consumed by microorganisms inside a body of water in order to decompose organic matter in that water is known as BOD. If it is above 3 milligram per liter, it shows increasing pollution. You cannot take bath in that water. If it is more than 30 milligram per liter, it is categorized as emergency health concern, priority 1 level of pollution, and this water then becomes most polluted. It needs urgent solution. Recent assessment in India 2023 says the number of rivers that are having extreme level of pollution, that are unfit for taking bath, that is above 3 mg per liter of BOD, is about 807 in number. It has declined from 2022. So that's a good news. Number of rivers with BOD pollution is less. Second, in India, there are small river stretches. For example, this is the main river, the small arterial distributaries, canals. Here, about 296 locations in 271 rivers have also been found as severely polluted, although this number also has come down from 311 the last year. Now, what's the priority 1 list? Which are extremely polluted, above 30 mg per liter level of pollution, that is very unsafe. It needs emergency care. And these are about 37 in 2023. Again, a reduction from 45 in 2022. So overall, it's a positive trend. But which states have a higher number of BOD pollution? That is Maharashtra, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Manipur and Karnataka. So that's the article. From this article, for your exam, the main takeaway is for the prelims, BOD. BOD is an important word we need to learn. Biological oxygen demand. Amount of oxygen consumed by various organisms inside the water, which they use in order to decompose the organic matter in that water. Very important. Above 3 mg per liter, polluted, unfit for taking bath. Above 30 mg per liter, completely dangerous, needs urgent emergency care, under priority list. In India, the number of those rivers under priority list has reduced from 2022 to 2023. From 45 to 37, that's good news. And these are the states which have a lot of pollution still. Absolutely. No, there is PDF. Navneet, there is PDF, my dear, now. I have seen it myself. Yesterday in the afternoon, the backend team has confirmed and it is there. Just go to the description box. There is a link called The Hindu. Press that. There is a folder called StudyIQ English. Press that again. There is my name. There is a separate Hindu folder. And from September 1, 2025, all PDFs are there. I have seen it before the session. So don't worry. Now you have all of them with you. Check it once again and confirm. Absolutely. That's a brilliant question asked by you, Saurav. No, the government schemes are not enough. Absolutely not enough, Saurav. I agree they are not enough. Because yes, pollution is directly proportional to industrialization and urbanization. It's not enough. Until there is a drastic thing done to create a very systematic urbanization like it happens in countries like Japan and South Korea perhaps, where the urban plan is made and then population starts living there. In India, it's not like that. First people come and then comes urbanization. So urbanization in India has followed migration. And that's the dangerous thing. First people settle and then they are covered by urban infrastructure. That leads to mismatch. So that's the fundamental flaw here. Very good point you've raised. So what is the significance of this article? Yes, you have learnt about the BOD. You also understood that how priority 1 list needs immediate public attention. At the same time, it also shows how industrial discharge, agriculture runoff, pesticide water from agriculture, sewage mixing with storm water, drains water. All that are the major reasons here. So we have projects like the Namami Gange. We have projects like, water integration schemes, river integration schemes. But today, what we really need is a better EIA compliance, environmental impact assessment. So before you allow a factory, before you allow a piece of land to be cultivated, please conduct an EIA, environmental impact assessment. That is a better approach rather than first allowing a factory and then later trying to control. That doesn't work. Switzerland, waste management, yes, all these are wonderful lessons we can learn from. The next article quickly is about just like yesterday, Britain, Canada, Australia, and Portugal have recognized Palestine as a separate country out of frustration because Israel is not ready to negotiate with the Palestinian population over the Hamas terror organization there, and it leads to continuous attacking and fighting, a complete genocide in West Asia. Today, there's one more country, France, and many more who are ready to recognize Palestine officially in the upcoming United Nations diplomatic meeting the next week. So now many more countries will recognize that. Now, there is one more complaint that's coming as 140 leaders, prime ministers, and presidents of the world countries are coming to New York for the annual meeting of United Nations General Assembly 2025. The leader of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas, has not been invited. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has not been invited. And that is creating anger among many countries. They are blaming America for that America denied visa. America refused to give visa to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. He cannot come to now the annual United Nations General Assembly meeting that's going to happen in America, New York, now for 2025. So, what is the sentiment? Most countries are angry about this bias, and there are countries like France who are now ready to recognize Palestine as a separate country against the threat of Israel. Similarly, there is one news from India, GS paper 2, polity and governance. The Indian Supreme Court has said that too many people from private companies and individuals are constantly filing criminal defamation cases. Today, the Supreme Court is experiencing a kind of saturation. It says it is high time we have to cut down the overuse of criminal defamation law by people in the society. People are becoming non-tolerant. One word against them and people go to the Supreme Court and start filing defamation case. This is quite opposite to Supreme Court's own ruling in 2016 in a very famous case versus Subramaniam Swamy versus the Union of India case 2016, in which Supreme Court said, if somebody has criminally insulted the other person, defamed the other person, tainted the other person's image, they have a right to file a case under criminal defamation with respect to reasonable restriction on the right to free speech and expression, Article 19(1)(a). But today in 2025, many people are abusing the law. Most people reach the Supreme Court for every small comment made against them. So therefore, Supreme Court is saying it's high time we have to reconsider the law and we cannot allow overuse of the anti-defamation law. Stop being so emotional about it. Everything is not anti-defamation. Learn to tolerate also. There is a contradiction, yes. That is true, Joshua. There is a contradiction, my dear. That's because the world is dominated by one hand America, the other hand Russia and China. So anything that is institutional in between today has no value, my dear. That's the West domination. Now, the last article for the day, as India's External Affairs Minister Shri Jai Shankar is meeting United States Secretary Marco Rubio. Both are meeting just a week before New York's UN General Assembly meeting is going to happen. Both of them are meeting so that they can clarify the problems, the disagreements about the 50% tariff on Indian goods, one, and second, on the hike of the fee on H-1B visa. So these are the two considerations both the countries will sit and talk about. They both will also discuss about the importance of forums like Quad, quadrilateral dialogue to control China's aggression in the Indo-Pacific area. So these are the two agendas, and the meeting is happening just few days before New York-based UN General Assembly meeting. So let's see how the issue gets sorted out. Now, the last article for the day, the Supreme Court of India has told very clearly that we need to completely prohibit caste-based political rallies. And this comes as a respect, an endorsement given by the court to Allahabad High Court's verdict. And Allahabad High Court in Uttar Pradesh clearly says that we will prohibit all the political rallies in which the word caste is mentioned. So today, no use of the word caste anymore for any political election agenda, especially when it is about pursuing people to vote, whether it's about signboards or vehicles, announcements, or any other campaign. We cannot use the word caste at all. The only exemption is when we are filing a complaint against a crime that is made on the basis of caste under the POA Act, the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocity Act 2013, Amendment 2019 and 15. This is the only exception we are giving. Apart from that, unless there is a caste-based violence and a court case is being filed, that's a different thing. But in any government rally, voting rally, political party rally, we will not use the word caste. It is a very important jurisdiction given by Allahabad High Court because it leads to violence, it leads to humiliation, it leads to caste divide in the country. That's all it is about. And the opposition is angry. They say this is also an opportunity of the government to suppress the voice of the marginalized. So what is it really? Let's see as it keeps evolving. So for now, allow me to take your leave. Here are all the answers that I have put here, and a quick reminder about the ongoing Navratri Mahotsav sale. So we start our batches as less as 9999. That's the starting price for 2026 target year. Even if you're giving the exam in 27-28, well begun is half done. So you can enroll for the sale by using the code SPLIVE on your screen. And if you use the code, you will get these massive discounts for GS and huge price offerings on optional subjects also. So you can choose anything, English course, Hindi course, bilingual course as per your need. And this will definitely help you in boosting your preparation for the upcoming UPSC exam. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your kind comments. And thank you for all the lovely participation. Yes, that's such a beautiful comment, Saurav, about the ethics class. I too agree. Okay, and I hope I answered your query, Joshua. Separate court is need for defamation order. That's also a very valid point. Thank you, Dipesh, for your kind words. Happy Navratri to all of you. And I'll see you tomorrow with another Hindu session.